Trucks.
Whoa, that's a cool truck that we've got.
Yeah, it's full of cement.
Oh,
We're taking it to
we're
Ketchum
carrying cement to Idaho.
from Portland to Idaho. Not
We're
from
definitely
Portland.
not in Portland. Yeah.
From Washington to Idaho.
Somewhere in Washington, yes. I'm gonna sneeze.
That's okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Ooh,
Intense.
spicy beginning for this trucks. But I think it's all out of my system now.
Oh, good.
I always sneeze in at least threes. Part of my
It's funny how that works.
patented personal brand.
Sorry, the trucks is late, truckos. We recorded
Yeah.
one and we didn't like it.
Pretty much, it was not the strongest trucks in the world. We had resolved to not do another trucks about the horrible state of the world since we'd done a number of those in a row, nor a trucks about our personal problems because we'd done a number of those also. And so we ended up doing a trucks about science fiction, which was basically just me talking about a bunch of books that I read and then immediately relating that back to the world's problems.
Yes, turns out
So-
science fiction is feeling it at the moment.
Indeed. Although I can say that I'm very happy to see that that Taz Muir's Ninth House series is gaining fan activity traction on Tumblr. I'm seeing a lot of fan art in my little circle, which is nice. It's a good book. It's probably the best second entry in one of these modern science fiction trilogies that I've experienced so far. So if you haven't read the Gideon the Ninth and Hera the Ninth, heartily recommended.
Nice.
A lot of fun.
I'm not gonna make
And you
it. I'm
can't
not gonna
say
make it.
Hera
I'm
the
not gonna
Ninth.
make it.
Are you sure? It looks like you might make it. Oh no!
Didn't quite.
You were so close to making it.
Let's do my
But
best
anyway,
to make. I forgot
'cause
how
that-
to do anything.
Oh.
The trailer wasn't going the way I thought it was gonna. Oh fuck!
Oh no.
So I have to turn the
Oh,
steering
no.
wheel this way.
To the right, I would imagine.
You think
Yeah.
so?
I would think reversing to the right and then trying to go straight might be the
That's what happened when I went to the right.
terrible. Well, I wasn't thinking like go to the right. I was thinking like
Yeah. Turn the steering wheel to the right. That's what I was doing. I'm gonna try to the left. No,
Okay.
you're right. Well, this is what's gonna get me out smoothly. Now I
okay,
fork at the
that'll
other.
do.
Just gotta weigh my stupid truck. How hard could it
I mean-
possibly be? Let's build up a lot of speed. That's the solution.
Oh yeah, that's the solution. Momentum. Oh, well, that's not good. I guess my
Second gear, baby. Oh.
Oh no, physics.
Okay.
God, it's so tantalizingly close.
Stop messing
Anyway.
around, Josho.
As you can probably tell, what we've settled on is an old-fashioned freeform trucks instead, which we haven't done that in a while. We haven't tried to do a trucks where we've done absolutely no prep in a while, and now circumstances have forced our hand. So pretty much we're just gonna hope that this is a good trucks, or at least maybe a nice little comfort food trucks.
Yes.
I tell you that I am starting to feel like things are at least a little bit less bleak in
Oh, good.
the world around here. Part of that is because I finally got converted to a real mailman, and even though that hasn't actually made my job life any easier so far because of how fucked things are at my station, it does mean that I have more options. I can see what I can transfer to, and I'm gonna get paid more, and it's all very exciting on that front. And that personal bit of progress has made me feel more optimistically inclined in general because I have monkey brain and persistent seeing patterns where none exist.
Oh, good.
But sometimes that feeling of things being relatively okay is all you need to get you through the next month. And also it's going to be fall soon, so the weather's going to stop being as terrible. Even though next week or this coming week I'm going to be working
I did it. I finally did it. I weighed my fucking truck. Oh boy.
I'm going to be working in like 95-degree heat and
That blows.
working every day because it's the holiday weekend. Oh yeah, today is Labor Day.
Today, birthday.
And the major difference, today birthday is Labor Day, and the
I
major
got woke up
difference
by that. I woke up, I looked at my phone. Monica was like, I'm gonna go shopping for spices, and I was like, I thought you would be at work, and she said today Day is Labor Day.
Good.
So
I didn't go to work today either, and the thing is that I worked on Labor Day last year, being a government employee and a unionized one at that. But because I was a CCA and because Amazon doesn't stop on Labor Day, I delivered Amazon last Labor Day, and right now I am not delivering squat.
Nice. That's the
I'm
way to be.
sitting here talking to you. That is a personal triumph because I felt very bad about that last year. You know, in addition to just being kind of a kick in the pants ideologically. You know, nobody wants to work on a holiday if they can avoid it. Even though I went to get groceries today at Trader Joe's where they're very much working on the holiday. You know.
Yeah.
But at least they're not a unionized government organization. Although maybe they should be. Nationalized Trader Joe's is what I'm saying. Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nationalized Trader Joe's. Maybe if they had a union, they wouldn't be like forced to be friendly to you, which I find really disquieting when I go to Trader Joe's.
You'd prefer if they were just openly like indifferent.
Yeah, like the way that people are when you go to the post office. I think that's how customer service should be. You know,
one of the reasons post office is like that. It's true.
One of the reasons why I push for, you know, why I despite everything that I've seen about how like wonky and occasionally corrupt it all is, I really do enjoy the way that unionized employees can get away with being cranky at customers, because I feel that the customer service culture in this country is dehumanizing.
Yeah.
And also keeps a whole bunch of other social disquiet in check, because even if you're the lowest of the low, you can always go to, you know, the store and have to be waited on by people you treat like shit. So, you know, you're always a little bit of a lord somewhere you go. And I don't think that you should be. I think that,
yeah.
You know.
A social,
so,
it's a weird one, because I can see the social utility of like an expectation of politeness, both in terms of how customers deal with service people and in how service people deal with customers. Obviously, in the current state of things, like when one of those is like a lot more ready to be disregarded than the others, the other, you know what I mean? But like, I wouldn't necessarily want to live in a world where it's just a presumption of hostility from the moment you walk into anywhere you're gonna buy something.
In my experience, you can, if you walk into a situation where the employees are not, you know, forced to be nice to you because of either the fact that you control how much they get tipped or you know, their HR policy, and you are then nice to the people who are serving you, they are most of the time nice back.
Most of the time, yes.
You know, and it's like with any social contract, there will always be assholes.
Yeah.
You know, you can't take assholery out of the equation.
Yeah.
And there'll always be rude teenagers. Being a rude teenager is a very fact of life, but I think that as a general matter, it actually increases the overall civility if there is a two-way social contract in place here.
Yes, I think you may be right.
You know, you can be treated well, but part of being treated well is your tacit agreement not to Karen it up and like ask for a manager.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That would be nice. That'd be a good world.
I mean, of course, given the current situation, everybody is super on edge at all times anyway, so it's...
How do we create kindness? How do we create kindness in the world with the presumption that the front line in this fight is, in fact, customer service?
Well, it starts with a recognition of mutual humanity. I'm
making a joke because, of course, the front line in that battle is not, in fact, customer service.
Yeah, but you might as well, like, you can extrapolate it. Like,
yeah.
You know, one of the reasons that people feel free to, you know, treat people in food service and retail like garbage is because they themselves have managed to you know, they've managed to move beyond that to a life where they can do what is, as a general matter, a far less useful but far better paid and easier job, and therefore feel that there's a significant enough, you know, class distinction that these people are below them. And you know, if we did away with that as a general matter, you know, we would probably be nicer to each other across the board, both personally and in terms of policy. I think so.
I hope so.
Yeah. So my point is that I wish that the people at Trader Joe's didn't feel the need to have a pleasant conversation with me because that's their corporate policy.
Yeah.
I discovered having, you know, formulated this opinion that Chris Fleming has a whole routine about it.
A whole routine.
And I watched that and was like, well, that's a little bit extreme. But yeah, it was part of... Have you watched the Gale series?
Oh, wait, yes. Some of it, not the whole series.
Some of it. Yeah, no, there's a lot of it. But there is
it's kind of my least favorite of his characters. Can I say that? I like Chris Fleming's comedy very much, but something about Gale as a character rubs me wrong. It's a little too... I mean, I guess it's just the overtone of man making fun of type of women, you know?
Right.
Even though it's that's not really the spirit in which it's done. It still has some of that atmosphere.
I think there's
some
a
of that
reason that
scent.
he's sort of pulled away from it a little bit more over the years. You know, and it's sort of like, and I feel, and this may be completely, you know, unfair of me, but I feel like his, you know, sort of being like, well, I'm not, you know, non-binary, I'm not really a dude, I'm a show pig, you know, kind of non-binary stance also in some way contributes to like that, to sort of out for, you know, the
he's certainly
kind of, you know, drag as minstrel show you know, idea. But
it doesn't feel like he's like picking on the identity of the character Gale so much as...
It's definitely the cultural norms of the Boston or the Massachusetts suburbs that he's, or exurbs that he's, that he's satirizing there. And, you know, also Gale as a character is, you know, a little bit more complex than just a, you know, bad caricature.
Yes.
Because she's also, you know, clearly an insane person. But yeah, no, I agree that I think that he's probably better not doing that for the rest of his career, and that seems to be the...
You know who...
It's still the most popular thing that he ever did.
Let's just dig right into this as a topic. You know what male comedian dressing up as a woman character actually works really well for me? Is Limmy's Jacqueline. Because Jacqueline is just solid. Like, Jacqueline has never done anything wrong. Jacqueline has never hurt anybody. You know, Jacqueline is just trying to get through in a world that sometimes isn't very nice to her. But she always keeps her head high, and she always discovers her... Like, most of the sketches end with her just kind of discovering her own value in a situation, and like...
I don't think I've ever seen one of these. I'll put it on the list. I've heard.
It's him like dressed up as a woman and doing like a ridiculous, like really male voice, you know, but like
right. But it's not transphobic. It's in fact something else.
Yeah, it doesn't really come off as transphobic. There's one where she's like, a thing about the character is that she always like introduces her hard lot in life by saying like, what is it? It's like I spent 6 months in a methadone program and another 12 months like recovering from the shit they gave me that was supposed to get me off it. It's a lot like less long-winded than that. But
yeah.
Like there's one where she like shows up at a speed dating thing and she's feeling really down because she doesn't think anybody's gonna be interested in her, and the sketch just ends with her like realizing that like almost every guy she talked to gave her their number, and then she's like, well, if they're interested in me, then I don't need them, and that's it. That's the sketch.
Lemmy is such a... I read Lemmy's autobiography a while ago. I don't know if I talked to you about this at any point. In part, like, I've never read a book and been like, you have ADD. You just so have ADD all the way through it. And then, like, I get to the last page and he's like, I'm thinking about getting tested for ADD. because my addiction to Twitch streaming is threatening my marriage.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
There's-
like, oh God, Limmy, please.
There's something uneasy about watching his Twitch streams, even without knowing that. There's this
No, it absolutely.
there's
Yeah,
a strange feeling of like compulsiveness to it for sure.
100%. No, he's definitely like. He's a man with problems, and he puts them out where everybody can see them, as is often the case with like the real near the knuckle comedians. But God, you gotta root for him.
Yeah.
You gotta root for him.
It's a shame he got canceled. I mean, his show got canceled. As
yeah.
far as I know, I don't think he got
I think he's
canceled.
personally been canceled like 5 times, but
Is that right?
never actually takes. Yeah, I mean he has to delete his Twitter like every year or so because he says something that gets him in trouble.
I hadn't noticed.
Not in a way that I think that our audience would particularly. It's one of those like that was clearly a joke, you know,
Right.
sort of situations, which sort of is his whole deal, you know.
Yeah.
If you're not giving him the benefit of the doubt, a lot of what he puts out is not great.
Yeah.
But if you are,
it's
you know.
definitely a bit edgy when, like, during that string of, like, celebrity deaths back in 2008 or
Yeah.
whatever, he was, like, tweeting at every
think-
single one, like, that he had met them and that they were surprisingly down to earth and very funny.
Yes, that's in fact surprisingly down to earth and very funny is the title of his autobiography. So
Right,
he's
right.
clearly not sad about having done that.
It's
But,
good
you
stuff.
know.
It's a good gag. I like it.
I agree. I totally agree. And
Look at that abrupt biome transition. Here it is. Green is
there
over.
it is. Oh God, that is such a recognizable transition. As you go east, if you're driving up the Willamette Valley, it's the exact same way.
It happens all at once like that.
Yeah, no, seriously, it really
Wow,
does. You
very
just
cool.
pass over some invisible line where the watershed is different, and you know you go from a temperate rainforest to this,
Yeah.
like that. You know. So that is true to life. I would say.
That's good to know. Always
yeah.
good to know. Good to see the video game doing it right.
Like this, you know. I mean, soon enough, like if Flight Simulator is just using the, you know, an algorithm and Google Earth to render the entire world with the occasional hilarious misconstrual of a non-standard structure. Then,
Did you see the Melbourne Spire?
Yes, I did. It's that sort of thing is deeply, deeply satisfying to me.
Yeah.
Seek out like the architectural oddities that will presumably be patched out of Flight Simulator before too long, and also just revel in the fact that exists. It's so cool that exists.
Yeah, someone wrote a pretty neat piece about it. I think it went through a bunch of topics. I'll try to link it. But it talked about how the visuals of that game are clearly sublime, but also there's this whole complicated process of reckoning it as a kind of tech demo for all this Microsoft stuff.
Yeah. Well, nothing's free of sin, of course.
Of course.
And I'm sure that this technology has military applications. as Microsoft programming so often tends to. But still, as an achievement, like as a toy,
For sure.
gotta love it. I'm glad it exists.
I remember the old Microsoft Flight Simulator. Similar ideas, just 20 years earlier.
Indeed, the technology a little bit not there, but the
Yeah.
unbelievably nerdy adherence to little fiddly details about complex machinery was certainly in place at the time.
It's good to see that genre coming back a little bit. More games about slow ass shit, please.
I mean,
I was-
as we speak,
Yeah.
that is clearly a priority.
I was
we are
talking.
currently having.
I was talking about this for a moment in the video games channel on the Discord, going back to the SNES collection on the Switch, and being like, a lot of these games have cool art that I would kind of like to just sort of explore around, but seeming like no one who made a game for the SNES like had ever heard of like anything other than populating the entire screen with enemies who were shooting at me all the time. You know, like. The action platformer structure was such a standby back then.
Default, I would say.
Yeah.
For that, like, pretty much entirely up until the PlayStation generation. Although, there's the odd exception.
Yeah, RPGs kind of offered the more slow experience, but even then, you got your random encounters controlling the pace quite a bit.
I'm trying to think if I can think of, like, one genuinely slow-paced...
There's one that's been getting talked
Super
about
NES
lately
game.
because it only recently got translated for the West, and that's Moon, which you can get on your Switch. It's not a game I know a lot about yet. I haven't really tried it out yet.
I have no idea. I've seen people talking about Moon, but it's such a generic term. I'm like, are they talking about the
Yeah.
movie that David Bowie's son?
Yeah, the Sam Bell movie.
Directed by any chance? Yeah.
Yeah. Or no, Sam Bell's the name of the character. I can't remember the name of his actor. Sam Rockwell. That's it. I always get
Rockwell.
his name, like his actual name, mixed up with his character's name because they're quite similar.
But yeah, I'll have to check that out then. I have a
looks
deep
cool.
sort of inborn affection for.
It looks way ahead of its time in a lot of ways. Like for an SNES game, apparently it's a game that sort of like gives you clues about what to do without intrinsically directing you all the time. Shit like that.
Sure. You say it's on the Switch?
I believe it is on the Switch. Yes, that's the only way to get it, other than maybe emulating the Japanese version.
Okay. I'm looking through the list of available programs right now. It's not part of the bundle, it's a standalone thing?
As far as I know, it's just called Moon. It should turn up in a search.
Oh, I'll figure it out.
But yeah, like
Give it
there were some slow-paced games from around that time. I mean, maybe not super atmospheric exploration, but I'm thinking about shit like Chips Challenge, like that's a slow-paced puzzle exploration in the vein of The Witness, sort of. Obviously, the game that actually like changed the complexion of that sort of thing was Myst, and I can't quite remember. That was like what, 96?
Yeah, Myst came out during the 16-bit era.
Yeah.
I was in middle school when that came out.
Yeah.
I will say that, like, sort of the thing that delivered this experience in console gaming the most reliably was the part in the JRPG where you get the airship.
Yeah.
Because as a general matter, nobody was going to be attacking you while you were up there, and you could just cruise around the world to your heart's content, looking for nooks and crannies. The best one is, I think, of which is Secret of Mana, A, because it's a dragon, and B, rather than an airship that you get to ride, and B, because the world is Mode 7 rendered in 3 glorious dimensions.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hey, did you see that this conversation spurred me to give some credit to Secret of Mana? No, I'm sorry, to Illusion of Gaia.
Oh my god! Do tell me.
Something it had me realize was that the layouts of the dungeons in that game seem to kind of like take cues from the ruins and stuff that they're inspired by, in order to create like a unique feeling of navigating them. Even if it's not always in a straight up mechanical way, it's interested in the characters of those spaces, isn't it? Like some of the time it is like, this one's filled with traps, so you'll have to like navigate it carefully, but other times it's just like, this one's the Great Wall, so it's kind of all a straight line. And other times sometimes it's even more subtle stuff. Like I really like this is not me speaking, this is my imagination of the designer speaking. He's saying, I really like the way how in this ruin you kind of walk through this entrance part, and then you walk through this big open courtyard, and then you're back inside again. I think I'm just gonna put that in the video game,
Yeah, that's Angkor Wat, and there is a lot to that. The dungeons in Illusion of Gaia all feel very different from each other, and also all reflect the way that you would expect that real life structure to be put together.
And that's something that old school Legend of Zelda games really did not have. Like the Legend of Zelda in the old days kind of had trouble escaping the feeling like, here's another screen full of enemies, like.
Yeah, it's like asset, there was a lot of asset recycling in those. and or just recolors of existing textures.
Yeah.
That is something that that trilogy of games, which I love, despite the fact that, as you pointed out, they are quite bad in some ways.
They're very silly.
Yeah, the Soul Blazer trilogy with Illusion of Gaia and Terranigma are all very invested in creating a sense of place and a sense of world, which is not as much the case in many other RPGs.
It only occurred to me many years later, but it's definitely there. Definitely.
It warms my heart to get to get that sliver of acknowledgement that there might have been something worthwhile going on in that video game.
Yeah. You know what?
I haven't
It kept me engaged, even if it was a sort of what's the word? You know, the kind of engagement one has when you feel like you're participating in a disaster. But it kept me engaged in a way that Link to the Past never has. So
right, there is that. Well, you know, that's definitely part of my engagement with video games too. Is that feeling of, well, this isn't. I definitely don't understand the mindset that went into creating this. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas with the Zelda games, it's pretty obvious what was going on at all times.
Yeah.
Do you ever play, did we ever end up playing Zelda 2 together, like the NES game?
No, not together. I
think
think I barely touched it myself.
I've been revisiting that one. I think it might be my favorite Zelda game.
Wow.
In the final analysis. Just because of how there's something in the way that the technological stretching that it did, B, the absolutely inadequate translation and localization in a game which required you to get a lot of clues from badly translated dialogue in order to figure out what to do next, and C, the insane difficulty curve. Just really combined to create an experience that's alienating in a good way. If you're into being alienated in a good way,
for sure, that's what video games are best at.
Yeah, I've never felt a sense of complete peril from any other Zelda game quite as much as from that one.
I mean, clearly you're forgetting about the moment that we were doing the race through the magical forest maze on the very final hour of Majora's Mask's time loop, with the world shaking around us.
That's true. I'm also, saying this with the very real knowledge that I don't care about any of the 3D Zeldas.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you have to like Majora's Mask better, just that I can remember another time that these games have created a feeling of peril for you.
Majora's Mask is also very good. I'll definitely admit that.
Yeah.
Despite what, despite the fact that it is a horrifyingly ugly, janky mess as well.
Yes, it's a beautiful, ugly mess.
Indeed.
Anyway,
will we ever see its like again?
No.
I bought a Switch specifically in order to pick up the
Breath of the Wild
remake of, no, not Breath of the Wild, the remake of Link's Awakening.
I didn't know that's why you'd pick that up. Cool.
And I haven't picked it up.
It looks
I haven't
cool.
actually done that.
I like that art style very much.
It does look cool, but it's $60 and it's never gone on sale.
It'll never go on sale. It's Nintendo.
Because it's precisely a thing for, nostalgia merchants to get into.
Yeah.
I just haven't been able to bring myself to do it. And I'm like, do I really like looking at this, luscious 3D style more than I like looking at Game Boy art? I'm not sure that I do.
I have no choice but to spend $60 when they drop that Mario 3D collection. Gotta have Mario Galaxy on my Switch and Sunshine and 64 too, I guess.
I didn't realize that was part of that deal.
Yeah,
I'm super glad that is the case. I'm definitely going to buy it when it comes out.
It is a limited
dropping?
availability thing. I don't remember. Maybe I want to say March, but that seems like it's too far away. But yeah, it's 64 Sunshine and Galaxy 1, which hopefully means that they're going to do something with Galaxy 2 later.
I would hope
'Cause
so.
I
Although
was t- I
Galaxy
was
1
t-
is the superior game.
I don't know that I agree with that. They're very close, so it's gonna be great to have Galaxy One. But I was telling Olive in the trucks, you might have saw, like, I would be way more excited for this if it were Galaxy 1 and 2 with no Sunshine or 64 for sure.
Oh yeah, of course. Galaxy. They get. Speaking of hot takes, the Mario Galaxy games are the best Mario games that ever existed.
Yeah, it's very possible. 3D Land, the unsung champion. Makes me excited about what they're doing with 3D World on the Switch. I hope that new level pack, I assume is what it is good. Mario. We agreed on, what was it, the very previous trucks to this one, that Mario's the best thing ever, so it's cool that there was some Mario news right afterwards.
Yeah, and like a maybe an alarming amount of my time is still taken up with paying attention to Mario content.
Yeah, dude, Mario content. It's one of the only things in this world that will never feel anything other than largely good.
Pretty much. I mean, you don't want to say never, but like,
yeah.
Mario has yet to screw me over or dip below my expectations. Even Odyssey, which in the end didn't have that much to offer, gave us the phrase New Donk City.
Odyssey is so much fun to move around, and it just needs some tougher levels, and it'll be really close to perfect. I'm almost out of gas.
Yeah, conversationally or
gas-wise?
Actually, truck-wise. Yeah.
Truck fuel.
I was making a very small joke.
It's a good joke. I mean, we are talking about Mario, which is a bad sign.
That's true. When we were talking about setting this up, I was talking about getting into the what may have been developed into a controversy since, or may have been completely ignored, which
the Owen Pallett Adam Neely thing.
Yeah, so Adam Neely dropped a 40-minute video today, which is basically just. So the larger context is that a academic in music theory made a big delivered a talk about how the way that music theory is done is essentially racist because it privileges this, in short, because it teaches that the only that music theory, i.e. the theory of all music, is in fact the theory of how 18th century European classical music is put together.
Right.
Which is, in fact, only a teensy-weensy little bit of...
I can see the case behind that. Like, there is that character which similarly comes up with Joseph Campbell, is like there is this assumption that this theory of music that we've come up with now is like the best one, obviously, because it encompasses all prior theories, or at least can sort of strain to pretend to encompass all prior
I mean, it doesn't even, though. Like,
yeah.
He pretty deftly demonstrates that that most of modern music theory education is based on this one guy who was essentially a Nazi, who was made a huge theoretic and sort of very interesting and cool interpretive structure which is sort of focused around the fact that German and Austrian, 12 German and Austrian composers were the best composers to ever live, and
yeah,
this level of genius will never be attained again.
Right.
And in his other writings, he's very much like
it's tempting to drive up those stairs, but I don't think I'm going to.
Oh, that's a shame. He's all about the superiority of German culture, even though he was a Jew in Germany during the rise of his name is Heinrich Schenkel, I believe.
How would you say that? How would you say that contemporary music theory subtly reifies these beliefs? I'm assuming it. On the one thing, it reifies these beliefs by teaching this guy who is like the primary scholar in contemporary music, classical music theory, but also just by he argues that it basically by teaching just one way of thinking about music as opposed to the classical Indian vocabulary and language for teaching about music, or the West African vocabulary and language about teaching about music. Because music theory, as it's taught, doesn't like overtly aspire to be aspire. It doesn't overtly aspire to be like a way of telling like what music is good versus what music is bad, right? But it still kind of it can subtly reinforce like complex key changes.
It's one of those things where well, it's not even like complex key changes. It's more like about, you know, this is the theory by which good harmony or good counterpoint is made, and you know, if you're not doing it this way, you're not doing it right, or you know, just the very way that you describe it. But really, it's one of those cases where the point is better made by the reaction to what this guy said,
right,
which was basically a rising up of conservative music theorists who had been poked into revealing their Nazism, you know, or their racism, their complacency, their, you know,
sure,
you know.
And he called out Owen Pallett for saying a
right.
thing.
So, well, the basic, if you're a fan of Owen Pallett, you may recall that like back in 2000 and something, back in the early Lady Gaga days, because I remember we talked about these articles when they first came out.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to them with you at the diner when we were hanging out at the diner in Sunset Park. So this was ages ago, somewhere in the mid 2010s. Owen Pallett wrote a series of little articles wherein he used classical theory to demonstrate why pop music was good, like why certain pop songs were good. He said, hey, you know, this Lady Gaga song is actually really good because it works like, you know, Western classical music.
I remember finding that article a little tedious at the time.
Yeah, no, I didn't like it for a number of reasons. It seemed both elitist and like, but he, in one of those articles, Pallett says, you know, this demonstrates the, let's say, I'm gonna give the full quote so that I'm not paraphrasing this, because the full quote is actually quite damning.
It's a doozy. It's a doozy.
Yeah. He says that pop songs, you know, that this fact that these pop songs are good demonstrate the excellence and supremacy of the rules of Western music theory.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
He doesn't say music theory, he says Western music theory. He used the word supremacy, which is just a really poor choice of words.
That's not great. That's not the right thing to say, for sure.
And like, you know, I'm sure that, I don't even know if Adam Neely knows who Owen Pallett is. He just, you know, knew of these articles, and you know, he highlights the very first thing that you see in this YouTube video which is entitled "Music Theory is Racist." That's the name of the music. And the very first thing you see in the video is Owen Pallett's byline on one of these articles.
Oh, no.
And then like 25 minutes into it, he, you know, goes in there, calls it out, and then highlights this quote. And he doesn't say, well, this appears to be
the work.
He doesn't say, well, Owen Pallett appears to be a white supremacist. He says, well, this appears to be, you know, blatant white supremacy in action.
Ooh, okay. That's that's one of those things. It's like,
yeah, it is indeed. Or
that's fair. That's not an unfair way to put it. This appears to be white supremacy in action. But
again, I mean, that's again a paraphrase. You have to be very careful of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
He doesn't call Owen Pallett anything. He just says that this demonstrates that this attitude is prevalent. You know.
Yes.
And you know, I'm not going to try to foment this conflict, and I kind of hope that it all goes by without anybody noticing or saying anything, because holy shit, I don't want Twitter to try to litigate this.
I feel like,
but
to me, it doesn't feel like that's in store. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, but it was just one of those things where it's like Owen Pallett is. I think it's fair to say that he's one of a big favorite of both of us.
Yeah.
He's certainly one, like, really high up there in terms of my favorite musicians.
His new album is super lovely.
And he's, you know, he's a little bit of a weirdo. He always has been.
Yeah.
You know, his
also, he's a Canadian, so he has lived a life of assuming he can't be racist.
Canadians are a little bit weird when it comes to that kind of thing. Having never had it like fully in their faces, they do tend to assume. This also happens with Irish people. And I've noticed. Let's
be really specific about.
Yeah, exactly.
And unkind about which kinds of people.
How do you like it, you people? You know, with your racism. But regardless, he does come from a culture where that is not the primary thing, and his primary view of looking at the world and at oppression and sort of power dynamics has been him being, a sort of.
I truly don't doubt that he just really, really likes Western music theory.
Yeah, no, I as long as they are not in positions of power or trying to dictate, culture from a place where they can do it, I do not object to people letting their aesthetics lead them.
Yeah.
And, I've never objected to that. I think that people who pursue the aesthetic over everything else, as long as they're artists,
it does,
and not politicians or policymakers, are
I don't mean to excuse the carelessness of his phrase, because definitely it's not the right way to say the thing, but it really does feel like this is a guy who does things with music theory, some really lovely things with it. To me, it has more like the character of a painter saying, extolling the supremacy of the fine-tipped brush,
Right, exactly. And the tone of these articles is flippant and not controversial. What do I want? Confrontational.
Yeah.
He's going in there being like, all right, I'm going to swing my big music theory dick around and make you jabronis pay attention to.
That statement certainly isn't made in an express context of him comparing that kind of music theory to what you can do with other kinds of music theory.
The point of what he's doing there actually is to be a poptimist.
Right.
I mean, within the context of the time, what he was doing there was like, hey, you snobs, I will use my particular brand of snobbery to show that you're incorrect about being snobbish about these things that I like, is presumably the thought process that all of that came out of. And then if you move the cultural conversation along 10 years and look at it out of context, it looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
But, that certainly wasn't where his mind was at the time, nor any of ours. I'm sure that statement probably went by without notice when I was reading those articles at the time,
Yeah. I'm sure someone noticed and was like, hey, come on.
Yeah.
But, as far as I know, he wasn't called out for it at the time.
No, absolutely not. And it's like, Pallet is no stranger to. He's able to walk the line with these things. Like, I'm sure that if he released a statement about it, it would be the same sort of statements as like.
Can I just say it's funny? It's funny hearing this kind of accusation come from Adam Neely, who is absolutely guilty in so many of his videos. I like his videos, but he definitely does the thing where it's like, this is a good song because of how I can unpack it in this music theory context. He does the gatekeepy kind of thing fairly often, doesn't he?
I mean, 100%. His music, his videos, his videos also largely are meant to be consumed by an audience of musicians.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to go, actually Adam Neely is the problematic one, it's just clearly the thing he's calling Owen Pallett out for is clearly so so widespread that it's hard.
And
it's hard
once again,
to.
I should point out that he did not call out Owen Pallett. He merely, did not obfuscate Owen Pallett's byline on these articles.
Mm-hmm.
But
what didn't he held it up as an example of regressive language?
Yes, he did. But he didn't then go on to say that Owen Pallett was a bad person.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But yeah, no. And if you want to, talk about, it was merely this last year that Adam Neely went on a government-funded goodwill jazz expedition to the Caucasus, and in his video about that, he acknowledged that he was in fact functioning as a propagandist for the United States government, and that is why, that is explicitly why he had been sent out there. But he had some nice nuanced thoughts about why that wasn't necessarily a bad thing, and that achieving cross-cultural communication through music, which he in this video very much states is not a universal language, but in that video he kind of suggests that it is a universal language.
Yeah.
In certain respects.
Hey, isn't this nice? We're delivering concrete and it's gonna be someone's house.
Yeah, and it's along a dirt road. Clearly they need all the concrete they can get around here.
And the parking job looks nice and easy, which is good because I've already fucked up trying to weigh my truck and trying to get gas in this episode.
Yeah, well, don't jinx it, but how could Josh possibly fuck this one up?
Did it?
He didn't. Hooray!
Let's just take a quick look around. Well, it looks like a pretty nice place to build a house.
Very pretty, and also very true to life in terms of, well, I mean, I would call that probably, well, I don't know. I don't know what this is supposed to be. I'm just enjoying those sparsely wooded mountains in the background.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's a trucks.
That's trucks.
Perfectly serviceable trucks. I think better than the last trucks. Let's put this one up.
Yes, I agree.
Call it a Rambly trucks.
A rambler, a bit of a rambler, but something.
If I'm gonna let me say this to the world, you know. So long as we're doing this, everybody's super fucking on edge and has gone through a really difficult year. So try to be, you know, in light of what we were saying earlier about service people, try to be patient if you can with other human beings who are all having a bad time almost universally at the moment. And, you know, and if you fail to do that, don't feel bad because you've been having a bad time.
I gave you an opportunity to capstone your thought with "God bless you all," but you didn't.
Because you sneezed.
Yes, you didn't take it.
No, I'm sorry. I dropped the ball.
I want to
can
share
only apologize.
that usually I record these with desktop capture off, so Shadowplay only gets the game, but this time I've actually recorded it so that it's capturing my entire desktop, so I'm just going to zoom out real quick, and and goodbye. Yeah, that was fun.